Hi guys, Josh Lloyd here from the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast and the Josh Lloyd Fantasy Basketball channel, also from Basketball Monster. I'm here to give you your first look at DraftKings for 2021 for the New Year's Day slate. Let's crack into it. There is 10 games, so we're going to talk about quite a bit of stuff here. The first one is the Boston Celtics and the Detroit Pistons. Tristan Thompson should be back for Boston after resting last game, while Detroit is going to be without Blake Griffin. They may be without Killian Hayes. He's questionable. We don't know that at this point, whether he is going to be out there and playing. So with Griffin gone, Saddiq Bey at almost minimum salary, I think he's someone we've got to look at now. He's not the sexiest guy, but just to get other players in around. He had 16 fantasy points in just 15 minutes last game. He should see those minutes rise. I think Saddiq Bey is a really, really strong option there. Mason Plumley's at 5,700. Always liking Plumley when he comes in at that salary. He's a 30-point sort of guy. And Josh Jackson at only 5,200 looks really, really strong to me as well. Jackson's got 31 average over the course of the season, which at 5,200 feels like an absolute no-brainer. On the Celtics side, yeah, Jason Tatum at 86 is okay, but blowout risk is real in this one. No spread currently listed that I can see for that one. Actually, I'll just check another source and see whether I can see any spread data for this game at the time that I'm recording this. Nothing out for it at this point. Yeah, there is real blowout risk, I think in this game. Tatum is okay. Of course, Jaylen Brown coming off a big game. He's $800 up to $8,100. I'm not sure I'd want to trust Jaylen with that sort of salary. Marcus Smart's at $6,300. That's also probably at this stage a little bit expensive. There are other options out there that I feel more comfortable with, and they're those ones that I highlighted already. Memphis and Charlotte, some real injury issues for Memphis. No Ja Morant, no Grayson Allen, no DeAnthony Melton, so just really thin on guards, and that means Desmond Baine is in play. He's at 3,700. Baine started the second half last game. He had 26 fantasy points. He's going to get an opportunity to start the entire game here. And at 3,700, I don't really know what more you could ask for. Kyle Anderson's at $6,000. He was pretty disappointing last game, but even in that disappointment, he put up some pretty good numbers. So I think we look at him at 6,000 as being a relatively strong option. Gordon Hayward also disappointed last time against Dallas, but I'd be happy to get back on that. While LaMelo Ball, he's now up to 5,300. He dropped 45 points against the Mavericks. Do I expect him to do that? No. Terry Rozier got into early foul trouble, and that pushed Ball's minutes up, but that is a really good price. 5,300. If he can, he's already averaging 24 a game this year in only 20 minutes. If he can get to 25 minutes, he should beat that number. I don't mind using LaMelo Ball. The other one, if you want to go really wild for a really cheap price, is Johnny Concha, 3,200. This guy racks up stats, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks. He does it all apart from score, and he's going to have a real role with all those guards out. So I think Johnny Concha is an option for us. We could also look at Miles Bridges, but he did benefit pretty heavily from the fact that Paul Washington Jr. was out last game. But 5,700 for Miles Bridges is not a bad salary at all. I think that's it's an option for us to take a look at over there. All right. I forgot to flick the thing over. All right, there we go. The next one is the Miami Heat and the Dallas Mavericks. Jimmy Butler is back. He's probable, so he's returning. We don't know what the Heat's lineup's going to be because they've been mixing and matching every single game. Luca Doncic is at 10,300 because, let's be honest, he has been a little bit disappointing. He's averaging just 41 points, and his highest score this season is only 49, so hasn't even cracked 50 yet. Is this the time for Doncic to do it? Let's hope he can get there, but I don't know. He just seems a little bit off at this point. Butler's at 7,800. That feels probably a bit too high, while Tyler Hero really went off. But DraftKings bumped him to 6,500. It's too high. His last couple of games were really strong. We see, if we look at this 10-game log here, 46 and 40. The games with Butler, 20 and 25. I would be fading Hero pretty heavily here. Adebayo at 8,200 is also probably more of a guy that we look to when he has the ball in his hands more when Butler's not there, because that enables him to generate those assists, which provides so much value for him. So I'm not sure that Bam at that sort of salary is great. There's not much on the Dallas side of things that I'm all that interested in here either. Next one we go to is the Atlanta Hawks and the Brooklyn Nets, a rematch from an absolute barn burner last time. These teams are going to put up big offensive numbers. Cam Reddish, 4,700 for Reddish. He's putting up some good numbers. Gallinari is out. Capella's going to likely be on a minutes limit as well. And DeAndre Hunter has crept up on the injury report. So Reddish could be a 30-point guy. He had 28 last time against the Nets in 32 minutes. I like him at 4,700. Lawawu Cabarro is at 36. He was obviously a massive disappointment with everyone back on this team. Last game, he only put up just the 9 fantasy points. Now, of course, he had that big one when everyone was out, but everyone's back. So hard to get too excited. I don't mind throwing him into a GPP, though, because I think other people are going to be more off him than what they should be. I think Johnny Collins at 72 is a nice price, with especially if Hunter is out, and Gallinari is already out. That's going to help Collins quite a bit. I like him at 7,200. Levert at 71, I'm not super keen on. And then you go to Kyrie and KD. Kyrie is at 93. KD is at 91. I will take KD at 91. I think that's a really good price for a guy that absolutely torched this team last time out. Trae Young's at 10-1. I think we can spend that sort of money better in other spots. Clint Capella, probably not interested in him all that much, especially with the current limit that he's got on his playing time as he tries to recover from that heel issue or Achilles issue that was bugging him as much as it was. The next game we look at here, we've got the Lakers. We've got the Spurs. A big surprise because Derek White is going to be active. We had no advance notice of that at all. And he's ready to go. How much does he play? Do they just throw him straight into the starting lineup like they did with Keldon Johnson? There's big question marks there. Now, LeBron is questionable for the Lakers. That's huge. LaMarcus Aldridge is questionable for the Spurs. Anthony Davis is down at 9,500. Now, he has been struggling, of course, but anything under 10,000, you have to look at that as exciting. DeJounte Murray is at 6,900, and he has been putting up really big numbers. Will Derek White impact him? Probably to some degree. But I think if we look at him at 6,900, there is still value there. LeBron's at 10,000. The ankle's a little bit of a worry. Aldridge at 6'3 is a strong fade. Derek White at 54 would be one that I would throw in to a GPP, but I wouldn't want to put huge amounts of trust there. And I'd probably fade away from Keldon Johnson, Rudy Gay, and Lonnie Walker, especially with Derek White back. It's going to be hard for Lonnie, I think, to have the necessary playing time and shot attempts to generate the numbers that he would need to justify being in a DFS lineup. The Bulls. The Bucks. The Bulls coming off a back-to-back after 2 wins in a row against the Washington Wizards. That's not that hard to do, but they've done it. No spread or total out for this one at this point. Kobe White's at 6,400. Absolute shit ton of minutes for him last game. I'm okay with using him there. He put up 40 points against the Wizards. I think 6,400 looks all right to me. And there's no Lauri Markkanen. There's no Tomas Satoransky. A whole bunch of guys are out for COVID protocol issues. So Thad Young at 3,500. He's not going to get huge numbers necessarily, but he had, 31 in that game against the Wizards? Even if he gets you 25 here, that's really, really good value. I don't know who is stopping Giannis Antetokounmpo on the Bulls, but at 11,000, I will use him. Chris Middleton at 77. It feels a little bit high. He came back to earth against the Heat last game, but the Bulls really aren't going to be able to stop him. I'm not super invested there. And Levine at 7,600, I think looks like a pretty good option. The only issue you have there with Levine, of course, is that it's a back-to-back and maybe he is somewhat gassed playing in that back-to-back. But some good value at the top of this one. The next game is another back-to-back. It's the Wizards, who, of course, just lost to the Chicago Bulls, but they're taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are without Karl Anthony Towns, and they're going to be without Josh Okogie once again. So that means we're probably going to get Ricky Rubio starting once more. We're going to get Jarrett Culver most likely in that starting lineup as well. So there is some things to see there, and it's a back-to-back. So will Russell Westbrook play? The answer to that is almost assuredly no, because that's just what he does. This is the bloke we're looking at. 3,400 Hull Neto. He's going to be all over the place. Everyone's going to have him rostered, but I don't think you can avoid it at 3,400. You have to have him. Tom Bryant's at 6,300. We love what he did against the Bulls, but not every team's the Bulls, although the Timberwolves' big man defense might be worse somehow. So Bryant looks to me to be a good option, and then Rubio's at 5,200. Probably limited upside there for the ravishing one. He did have 26 last game, so at 5,200, I don't mind that for Rubio. D'Angelo Russell at 75, we can do better there. Anthony Edwards is a GPP guy at 51. Naz Reid at 52 is just a GPP guy. If we want to go wild, I think we look at someone like Jared Vanderbilt, who is the best power forward on this roster, who can have 25 points. And if he plays 20 minutes, it could be a real blow-up. But that is a low-rostered guy who might be a differentiator for you in GPPs. Now, getting this first look out for you nice and early here. So the Suns game from New Year's Eve hasn't finished, but we're going to talk about it here anyway. They're going up against the Nuggets in this game. It's a back-to-back. Will Chris Paul play? I imagine he will, but if he doesn't, then Cameron Payne at 44 is going to be an excellent option, but we don't know that at this point. Jamal Murray, the headmaster, he's at 6,700. I haven't really been that enamored with Murray so far. I'll leave that. Devin Booker at 8,000 doesn't look great. While Big Chungus Nikola Jokic, 10,600 for him. Look, he's just rampaging. And if you're putting guys like Hull Neto in, you can probably afford not Doncic. I was going to say something about Doncic in a sec. If you could probably afford having Jokic in there at 10,600, and I'd rather spend the 10,000 on Jokic at this point than I would on Doncic. Bridges at 5,700 looks to be a pretty solid floor sort of a player, while Michael Porter's at 7,000. I don't trust the minutes yet for him fully. Not quite there in terms of trust or trusting Michael Malone to play him those minutes. We cannot rely on old Dr. Malone at this point. The Lakers, not the Lakers, they'd be offended at that. The Clippers and the Jazz. Clippers are favored by 2.5, and the total is 226 here. Donovan Mitchell's salary is so low, 6,800. You have to just throw him in there for that upside play. And I think Gobert at 7,400. Even though it is a back-to-back, there is value in both of those guys. Kawhi is at 92. His first game back with the mask on. I think it went all right. He had 52 in that game, and that was an absolute blowout. I don't know. I don't expect this to be a blowout, so Kawhi should be at least close to a 50-point guy. Paul George is at 8,700. I don't mind that for George. I'd probably spend up the $500 though to get Kawhi in rather than move down to get Paul George. But I don't think it's a bad move in the slightest. All right, and then that moves us on to the next game, or the last game of the day, the Portland Trail Blazers taking on the Golden State Warriors. The Blazers, we don't know whether Gary Trent's going to play. He's listed as questionable. Draymond Green is likely to return for the Warriors. Robert Covington's salary is dropping a lot. He's at 4,600. It's because he hasn't been good, but he does have 35 point upside, and that puts him into the GPP discussion. Kelly Oubre at 58. Obviously hasn't been at his best. I think that might be a little bit high, but I'm not against it. And I think same with Nurkic, another guy who's been well down. At 6,700, he can do it easily. I'm not really trusting him to do it at this point, so I don't think the value is really there. 9,600 for Steph Curry looks great. He's just dropping 40s pretty comfortably. He had a 56 the other day as well. And then James Wiseman. Now, Wiseman has struggled in games where the margin's been close because he doesn't get garbage time to stack it up. Nurkic might be a handful for him, or Kanter's going to be somewhat of a handful for him as well, no matter who's on there. So I'm a little worried about Wiseman. I don't mind throwing him into a GPP in case it is a blowout, and then he gets to match up with Harry Giles for 8 minutes to close the game. That would work in his favor. While Lillard's at 9,800. I would have hoped Lillard's salary dropped a bit after the way that he has started this season. It hasn't, so maybe he is a guy that we just don't get too excited about at this point. There's your quick first look at the action for New Year's Day, Friday, January the 1st in the NBA on DraftKings. Subscribe. Hit the notification bell. You'll never miss one of these shows. You'll never miss any of these shows or any of Al's shows on the channel. Subscribe, hit that bell. Leave a comment down below, guys. Thumbs it up. All of that good stuff. I will see you later. Happy New Year. Bye.